What will he find out there, Doctor?
His destiny. This whole thing is insane. Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Okay, we're back with another episode, and we're back to the status quo. We're back to movies. Again, I'm going to do another television series, but only one more for the next season, but, I probably won't do any more television shows after that, because that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I guess if I covered, one or two episodes at a time, it'd be easy, but covering a whole series was kind of hard. But I digress, because here we are, back to the movies, and we're into the modern era. So we're gonna do Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes from 2001. This is a much hated movie. Not a lot of people like this movie. I can kind of see why. I personally do not think it's that bad, but it's definitely kind of veers off the path, because this is a Tim Burton vision. This isn't just a reboot or a remake of a movie. This is a completely different story, which I commend Tim Burton for. And on the last episode, I mentioned I'm not the hugest Tim Burton fan. I like what he does. Beetlejuice was amazing, but for the most part, he doesn't impress me beyond his style, which is extremely impressive. But his movies don't really catch my attention. And this one it caught my attention, but it had trouble keeping it. Of course, directed by Tim Burton. There was a lot of writers to this. There was 3 writers, so I've actually skipped that. But our cast is Leo Davidson, played by Mark Wahlberg. This was young Mark Wahlberg, 2001. So this was before he really, I guess you could say, found his acting chops. You can't really say he's a great actor now. He's a good actor, but he's not great. And in this, he's not. He does that breathing thing that's kind of weird. That, yeah, we're gonna get out there, and we're gonna get these apes. And he has a weird speaking style. He got that Boston accent, which is great, which kind of saves it. But the funny thing about this is he was already cast in a movie, and then Tim Burton came along and was like, hey, you want to be in my movie? He's like, wait, Tim Burton wants me to be in a movie? Yeah, I'm going to go be in Planet of the Apes. And that movie he left to go be in Planet of the Apes was Ocean's 11, where he was playing Matt Damon's part. So he would have been the star of Ocean's 11. That was not a good choice, my dude. I would have stayed with Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 was a much better movie, but whatever. Another protagonist here is Dina, played by Stella Warren, beautiful girl, a supermodel, but she went into acting and found she has some acting chops. She's actually pretty decent. Next up is, of course, the next protagonist is, you can't have a Tim Burton movie without Ari as Helena, played by Helena Bonham Carter. You cannot have a Tim Burton movie without Helena Bonham Carter. Past a certain time, because she wasn't in Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that. But when this was, after this, you didn't have Tim Burton without Helena Bonham Carter, because this was the movie in which they worked together and found a love for each other, because this was, after this, they started dating. And I don't think they ever got married, but they didn't live together, but they bought houses right next to each other. They didn't live in the same house, which is kind of weird, but whatever. I'm sure it's Tim Burton, so there was probably a tunnel that went to the other house. Your antagonists here are Thade, played by Tim Roth. awesome Tim Roth. Tim Roth is beyond a great actor. He's so good in what he does. Namely, Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs, you can't mention Tim Roth without Reservoir Dogs. So awesome. Your next antagonist is Atar, played by Michael Clark Duncan. Rest in peace. You know him from Green Mile. He played John Coffey. So, yeah, man, great actor. And he usually plays bad guys, which is weird because he's such a nice guy. And there was a funny story I read on one of these where Michael Clark Duncan was in the middle of shooting Green Mile when he got the call from Tim Burton's people saying, "Hey, Tim Burton wants you to be in this Planet of the Apes movie." And his first reaction wasn't yes or no. His first reaction was, "I'm guessing he doesn't want me to play a human." And I think that's kind of funny. You have some lesser roles here. You have Karubi, played by Chris Christopherson. He's not in it a whole lot, but it's Chris Christopherson, so you have to mention it because it's Chris Christopherson, who is awesome. Not just a great actor, but a great singer as well. He was a country music star. You have Limbo, played by Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti's in this, and he is a sleazeball in this one. He is a slave trader. Mean guy. And then you have two cameos. You have Charlton Heston as Zaius, who is Fade's father. He has an awesome line in the movie. Damn them all to hell. He's talking about killing all the humans. He plays an ape in this one. So, Charlton Heston, Tim Roth was not a fan of Charlton Heston because of an NRA thing, because Charlton Heston is very much a gun enthusiast, and Tim Roth didn't like that. And Tim Roth has said that if he would have known he had a scene with Charlton Heston, he would have not done the movie because he is that much against guns. And to me, I think that's kind of stupid. Like, yeah, cool, stand up for your beliefs and everything, of course, but to not work with someone because of their views on something, that's kind of childish. Because in this movie, he's not like saying he's not like in ape form saying go buy guns, everybody. In fact, the Zaius character is very much against guns. He actually hides a human gun in the movie. He hides it away for years because he doesn't want apes to find it because guns are destructive. So, I don't see what the problem is there. I mean, I get it. He has a belief that he believes that people do have the right to bear arms. Okay, so, and that's just kind of, no, I'm not going to work with him because of that. Okay, so are you not going to work with someone because they don't like the color blue? I mean, come on, dude. It's an opinion. But Tim Roth is amazing, so I don't fault him for that. He can do whatever he wants. Also, Linda Harrison, who played Nova. She was Woman in Cart. She had one quick scene where they round up all the humans and throw them into a cage, and she's in there with Mark Wahlberg. That's her scene. But that was Nova, and she doesn't speak, of course. And that's where this movie kind of goes a little crazy. This is not Planet of the Apes. Number one, it does not take place on Earth. It takes place on a literal Planet of the Apes. There's a twist involved, but humans can speak, for one. That's something. They still wear the loincloths and everything, all that mess. The apes are completely different. They're not exactly humanized apes. They're not sophisticated. These apes act like apes. They run on all fours. They climb. They make noises. They sniff things. They do that thing. They like run around. Like they swing on stuff. It's a very like almost primal state still. So they're not like walking upright with perfect posture like in the other Planet of the Apes movies. They are hunched over and they run on all fours. It's very much different. Now this whole production was insane. Now, there are so many people that were supposed to play Thade, and a bunch of people that were supposed to play Leo, and a bunch of people who were supposed to direct this movie. Usually, I'll be popping up pictures of them. Not this time. This was a long production. Long. This movie has been in production since 1988. This movie came out in 2001. That's a long time. A lot of people were attached to this movie. But there was one thing that Tim Burton wanted this because he is a weird dude. Tim Burton wanted Ari, Helena Bonham Carter's chimpanzee character, to be the love interest to Leo. And I don't just mean he cares for her, she cares for him. He wanted full on, like, he wanted them to have love scenes and stuff. And of course, Fox was like, yeah, nah, that's bestiality, dude. You can't do that. And Tim Burton, of course, came back with, well, then we'll make it platonic, but I still want him to be the love interest. Nah, still bestiality. Like, oh, okay, then we'll just make it implied. No, still weird. And usually I do not side with the production company on this, but on this, I completely side with Fox. There is absolutely no reason to have a chimpanzee and human love story. That is weird. The Shape of Water was weird enough for me when Chick was banging a merman. Like, it's bestiality. No matter how you look at it, it's bestiality. But it's Tim Burton. He's a weird dude. But there was actually a point when Paul Reubens, Pee-wee himself, Pee-wee Herman, was supposed to be in this movie as a Cornelius type role. That's Tim Burton's words, Cornelius type role. Yeah, and it just didn't happen. It never came to fruition, and it wasn't going to be Cornelius, but it was going to be a Cornelius type role, a scientist. Now the people who were attached to Thade, to play the bad guy, if you will, the role that Tim Roth took. We had Johnny Depp, of course, Daniel Day-Lewis. There was, and of course, the one that I am all down for was Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman was actually really attached, but you know, it's Gary Oldman. He stepped out. The people attached to play Leo, Mark Wahlberg's part, were Arnold Schwarzenegger, Harrison Ford, Kevin Costner, Patrick Swayze. Jeez, this is crazy. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Leonardo DiCaprio. All of these guys were attached to play Leo at some time, or at least considered. I was like, and they went with Mark Wahlberg. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have, let me see, Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg. Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg. Come on, man. That's an easy choice. But Mark Wahlberg all the way. I hope everyone knows I'm joking. Now, the director for this, before Tim Burton took over, we had Sam Raimi of Evil Dead fame and Spider-Man. We had Oliver Stone at one point. Roland Emmerich, who Day After Tomorrow, Independence Day, stuff like that. Steven Spielberg, he was a big one. He was actually attached at a point in the 90s, which is kind of cool. Michael Bay, because, you know, explosions. Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson wanted to do this, which I would have loved to see a Peter Jackson Planet of the Apes movie. It'd be pretty dope. And finally, the one most recent before Tim Burton was Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez, that would have been just a crazy movie. Like, it would have been great. So, yeah, this was a crazy little thing, but it got down to what we have now, which is the cast and Tim Burton. But like I said, this is a much different movie. Much different. I enjoyed it still, but it's a much different movie. We open with a chimp trying to fly a spaceship, and he's like pressing buttons, but he goes crazy, and then we find out that he is a chimp in training, and Mark Wahlberg is there. He's kind of training him. He's like freaking out, like the spaceship has crashed in a simulation, and he's freaking out like that. And Mark Wahlberg says, "Stop it, or you're not getting a treat." And immediately the monkey's. He's like, "Okay, here you go." It's his little buddy. Like he loves these chimps. We find out this is 2029. And they find something in space, and they got to send someone to it. So they send the chimpanzee. They send Mark Wahlberg's chimpanzee straight into it, and the chimpanzee disappears. And like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, we can't send anyone else, so let's just leave it for now. And Mark Wahlberg was like, no, I'm gonna go after my chimp buddy, and he jumps in and flies into it, and he is sent through something where he is now on a planet where humans are not the top of the food chain, and he sees an ape, and the first one he sees is Atar, or the first one he sees is Atar, but the first one he has contact with is really Thade. So he meets Thade, and he's like, "Whoa, a talking chimp! I'm serious here. Me and you, we could do something together. You're a talking chimp. I'm a human. We can make movies. I'm telling you. This is how it goes, man. I'm going to leave you my number. You call me. Say hello to your mother for me." Probably how it went, but they probably cut that part out, So he actually ends up meeting Atar too. And Atar has a great friggin' line where Mark Wahlberg, or I guess Leo, is actually... he's pretty much knocked out, and he grabs Atar, Michael Clark Duncan's ankle, and Michael Clark Duncan, Atar, looks down and is like, "Get your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human," and then kicks him and knocks him out. But that's not how the original scene went. The original scene was, "Oh, look at you. You're a talking gorilla. I was thinking about doing Pain and Gain too. We could do that together. Me and you. You're big. I'm big. I'm a big guy. You're a big gorilla. We can do this. Here's my number. You call me whenever you're ready to do it, and say hello to your mother for me." That's how it went down. But they cut that out, because it's the way it is. Because they had to make it, seem like he was scared of the apes. But, so, yeah, they're actually selling these humans to a slave trader, to Paul Giamatti's Limbo. Yeah, it's crazy, because he's such a slimy character. You actually hate this guy, and I don't usually hate animals, but dude, I hated this guy. He was a flat out slave trader, and he at one point there's a really disturbing scene where he has the adults separated from the children, and he has a ape child come in, and she chooses her pet, and it's a child, and he sells the child to the parents. And it's a scene that plays out a lot during the movie, where you see this human child in a cage, and it's and she's like, "Oh, I love you." It's her pet. It's clearly her pet. It's like her little dog. And I see a lot of people that are talking about, "Oh, it's such a disturbing scene." And I'm like, is it though? Because we do the same thing. Humans do that. We keep animals in cages and stuff. And it's really not, it's not something that we, don't do. It is disturbing. It's disturbing that we do it. So, this whole movie's insane. So we have a human-ape meeting where we find out that this planet, that there are more humans than apes, that the humans breed too quickly, and they basically their numbers they outnumber the apes, and they're like, well, we have to eradicate, and it's very strange, and there's so much weird stuff going on after this. There is an ape mating scene where you have a baboon and another ape are in the bedroom together, and it's let's say they had this in Planet of the Apes in 1968. They had a scene like this. Let's say they did. They didn't, but let's say they did. What would it spin is someone, an ape coming in wearing like some kind of robe, and then the other ape being like, oh, all right, hey, how's it going? You know, it would have been very human-like. This was not human-like. This ape comes in wearing straight-up lingerie. I'm not kidding. Tim Burton, man. He's like, and she's just, and okay, so she comes in. I looked for a video clip of this, but apparently you can't find it anywhere. I was actually almost willing to download the entire movie and edit it just for this scene, but I'm like, I'm not willing to edit a 2-hour movie. Screw that. But she comes in wearing the lingerie, and the baboon's on the bed reading, and he puts down the book, and instead of being like, oh yeah, he goes, ooh, 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 and he like goes monkey crazy, and it's what the crap? And then she gets on the bed and starts going monkey crazy, and I'm like, what am I watching? Like, is this some kind of weird nature channel? This is so weird. And like this whole movie's just crazy, but like this scene alone bumped the score up because it made me laugh. And like there's a few things in this movie that just Tim Roth's performance bumped the score up. But we see a ape with dentures too, because he's like at his bedside and he's like, you're like, whoa, all right. And but they end up getting to escape because Ari, Helena Bonham Carter's character, comes in and meets our hero Leo, and she gives him a torch, and he actually kind of takes her hostage, and she's like, oh, let me buy this human and his female companion who was Dina. And they're like, he's like, all right, yeah, that's cool. But I mean, you know, the real cutscene was, whoa, look, it's a female ape. Wow, man, we could do something like a romantic comedy. I'm serious. Me and you're a talking chimpanzee. You're really pretty. Me and you, we just can't have sex because it's bestiality, but we could do something. I'm serious here. Here's my number. Give me a call and say hello to your mother for me. That's how it happened, but they cut that scene out, and instead they had him take her hostage. So, sorry, I slipped into a Boston accent there on accident. I didn't mean to do that. When I slip into my impressions, and my Mark Wahlberg impression is absolutely horrendous, but when I slip into impressions, I tend to stay into the accent, and that's why I talk like this. I'm actually from the North, but I once did a Matthew McConaughey impression, and I've been stuck like this ever since. It's my life. I'm just kidding. I was born and raised in Tennessee, so yeah. So it's not much of an impression when I do Matthew McConaughey because it's my accent. He has a Texas accent. I have a Tennessee accent. It's not far off, you know. It's not far off. You just have to give a little bit longer draw, drop your vocals a little. Just get in there and do a little. All right. It's really not hard. Yeah. So it's easy to do. Yeah. So Matthew McConaughey's voice and mine, not too far off. Yeah. But they did escape. They do this weird escape thing, and they get out. It's basically they're out, and then then that's when Charlton Heston's Zaius comes in. He's like, you've got to find the humans because he's smart, and you do not know that humans are destructive when they're smart. And he's like, go bust that vase and get what's in it, and I'll prove it to you. Because he tells him, like, there was a point when we were the slaves and humans ruled us. And he's like, no, that's not true. You know, Thade's like, no. And he goes and he finds this vase that looks like a gigantic butt plug. Go find the movie, find the Charlton Heston scene. You will see it looks like a giant butt plug. And he he breaks it, slams on the ground, and pulls out a gun. He's like, yeah. He's like, that has the power of 200 spears. And but he's like, oh, so this is when the movie kind of kicks off, because so Mark Wahlberg has to go find the ship he crashed on, because he has to go find a tracker, because when he crashed into a ravine and he went straight underwater, and he had to get out or else he was going to drown. He jumps in, finds it, he's like, oh, there, and there's a tracker saying there's another ship. They like, oh, they're already here for me, sweet. Now when I first saw this movie, I immediately thought, oh, he's going to find the other monkey, cool. And but no, so they immediately go for it, and this is where the movie starts to kind of drag a little bit, because it's just them making their way to the ship and the apes preparing for war. Like, we got to kill all the humans. And they at this point they're like kidnapping the slave trader, and we see Leo actually use a gun. He starts using a gun, and all the apes are like, whoa, what is this? And he's like, yeah, come on. That's my mic, by the way. Hear it? Yeah. I don't know if you actually heard that, but because I don't hear it. But so skip right to basically the third act of the movie, which is where the movie, for me, I think this part, a lot of people didn't like this part, but I thought the twist was really cool. There are a few people that were like, quite a few people that were like, the twist is dumb. And I'm like, you just think the twist is dumb because the ending didn't make any sense. So, but like, the twist is that Leo went through the time warp, whatever you want to call it, and lands, and the big ship that he was on immediately follows. But they go through the time warp, and they end up on Earth far before he did, thousands of years before he did. So when you go through the time warp, it basically randomizes where you go. So he landed, or they landed. He went through it first. But they landed thousands of years before he did. It's a very cool little twist. And the apes that were on the ship became smarter and revolted against the humans. So they were on this Earth for thousands of years. There's a ton of people, and all the humans on this Earth are descendants of these humans that came in on this big ship. And all the apes are descendants of the apes on this big ship. So Mark Wahlberg, this Planet of the Apes is Mark Wahlberg's fault. It's Leo's fault, and yeah, it sucks. But they find out that it still works, and then they Hasbor. The apes show up, and he blows them up. Boom! He uses all the last fuel cell of the ship to blow up a bunch of apes, and I really wish I could have found that scene, because it's an explosion. You just see a bunch of ape bodies fly. It's very cool. I actually thought it was nice. But there's fights, deaths, blah, blah, blah. There are characters that die in this that I have not even mentioned because there's no point. Let's see. What else was it? It ends up the original ape comes back, the chimp that flew into it the first time. He's finally there. And they're like, oh, that's the leader of the apes. And he's like, oh, he looks just like the guy who created this planet. And they're like, oh, and they all bow to him. And he runs into the big ship for whatever reason. And the Leo follows him, but Thade follows Leo, and they has fights. And Leo's not going to win. He can't beat Thade. Thade actually gets control of his gun, and he's going to kill him. But he actually is standing in a pod, and Leo locks him in there, and he goes primal. The second time, he goes primal twice in this film. He goes primal the first time whenever they find out that the humans got away, and he like jumps all over the wall, and he's like screaming like an ape. It's crazy. And he does it again here, except this time he goes primal, banging on the window, shooting the window with a gun, and then he tries to speak to Atar, who has betrayed him. But Atar's just like, yeah, all I've known is a lie. So, and it's your family that's perpetrated this lie. And he's like, he goes mad, goes ape again, and then he goes to Ari, who he's in love with. He's like, hey, you got to help me out. She's like, nah, I'm good. And he bounces around, and then he finally slows down, hides under the table. It's very actually kind of a sad scene. And humans and apes are buried together, and they're like, they're not going to mark any of the graves because humans and apes should be living in harmony now. So one war, and suddenly everything's okay. Okay. And then Marky Mark over here, Leo, has the chimp, and he like hands it off to Ari. He's like, all right, F y'all, bye. And he hops in the freaking ship, the one-man ship that the chimp brought. And he's like, see ya, you take this chimp. I'm out, dude. I'm going back home. Screw you. Screw the chimp. Screw you. Screw the chimp. Screw all y'all. I'm going to get on the ship, and I'm going to fly. I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. And he flies off. He leaves. He gets out of there, and this is where the ending happens that people hate. And if you watch it by itself, Planet of the Apes, if you watch this movie, this ending makes sense. No sense whatsoever. He flies off, finally finds Earth, lands on Earth. He's like, okay. And the air traffic controller's like, oh, you're going to crash land. Yeah, I know. I can't control it. He wrecks. He lands right in Washington, and he lands right in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And he looks up, and the Lincoln Memorial is an ape, and it's Thade. Thade is somehow President Lincoln. I'm like, okay. And then a bunch of cops show up, and they pull out their guns, and it's a bunch of apes. That's the end of the movie. And when you look at that doesn't make sense. It's a very nonsensical ending. But here's the thing. I actually went and did research on it because I really wanted to know what the heck happened. And I figured it out because Helena Bonham Carter has an interview where she actually explains it. Where she's talking about... let's see. Basically, she said that the production was so bad that Tim Burton didn't want to do a sequel. In fact, Tim Burton is quoted as saying, "I would rather jump off the highest building imaginable than do a sequel to that film because production sucked. They were very evil to him." But the actual original plan was to make a sequel. This was actually to start a new franchise, and the sequel was supposed to be revealed that Thade somehow got out, somehow got a ship working, and flew back to Earth, followed Leo's trajectory, and got into Earth before Leo did. Because the time shift does it at random times, and he took over the world. It does not mean that he took over the world in Civil War times and stuff like that. But he got there enough time for them to replace Lincoln with Thade. And the whole movie, the whole franchise was supposed to be Leo setting everything right. But, of course, that didn't happen. So, they also had another ending whenever Tim Burton was in the middle saying, like, I don't want to do a sequel to this movie. He made up a different ending where Leo crash lands in the middle of Yankee Stadium, and there's a baseball game going on. There's a baseball game. He lands, and he steps out of the pod to see a bunch of apes playing baseball. That would have been the original ending. It would have been it. So no Thade or anything like that. But that is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Once again, yeah, it's nonsensical. Yeah, I make fun of it and everything like that, but it's entertaining and it kept my attention. And I will tell you right now, it's better than Battle and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I gave it 7 out of 10. I actually thought it was a decent movie. I mean, it wasn't like a masterpiece at all. But, all right, next up. Here we go. We are in the final 3, the final trilogy. We are in Matt Reeves' trilogy. Matt Reeves did not, I don't think Matt Reeves did them all, but Matt Reeves did the first one. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Last episode I said that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was next. It's Rise. Rise, Dawn, War. Rise of the Planet of the Apes has James Franco. I love James Franco. I have a weird love for James Franco. I actually very much enjoy this movie. It's going to be weird to see if I rank it above the original. Probably not. But I love all 3 of these movies. These were another set of movies where people were kind of... It's a polarizing movie. Set of movies. They're like, because this isn't your typical Planet of the Apes. This isn't like the original 1968 Planet of the Apes. Stuff like that. This is... a retelling. It's almost like a reboot of Conquest and Escape, or Escape and Conquest, where it's closer to Conquest, and there's even some battle in there, Battle of the Planet of the Apes, but it's good. 2011 was when the first one came out, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, PG-13 little fun movie. I saw them in theaters, and I actually get to watch these 3 in 4K for the first time. So I'm very excited about that. yay 4K. But thank you for watching this one and hearing my really dumb thoughts on Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. And I know I offended somebody or made someone be like, oh, how dare he, when I said that I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton. Sorry, guys, that's just my opinion. You would hate to hear my opinion on Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, that is just not my movie. Like, I don't like musicals. They get on my nerves. I like Marilyn Manson's cover of This Is Halloween. But, like, yeah, it's just not my thing. Musicals aren't where it's at. I mean, but weirdly, I like Little Shop of Horrors. It's kind of weird. But this has been my DC Covers Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Please join me for Rise of the Planet of the Apes, because life finds a way. Wait, it's Jurassic Park. Life does find a way.